Emily rushed through the cold winds of New York, holding her coffee, trying to make it to work on time. For her, these mornings were anything but ordinary. She awakened every day with traces of her past. Her childhood had been spent in orphanages, growing up craving love and always searching for a sense of belonging. Ever since she could remember, she had been tossed around in various places, among different people. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like the videos, and leave a comment. We'll keep growing with your support. Thank you. She had to fight throughout her life, but she had never given up. Scholarships had helped her finish university, where she chose to study social services, believing that helping others in difficult situations gave meaning to her existence. She was passionate about her job, but deep inside, she felt a lingering sense of incompleteness. As usual, she exited the subway and walked a few blocks to the social services building. But that morning, something caught her attention. At the edge of the sidewalk, shivering beneath a worn blanket, lay an elderly man. A few words were scrawled on a piece of cardboard. "I'm hungry. May God protect you." Emily felt a pang in her chest. Her eyes moved to the man's sunken cheeks and trembling hands. His shirt was so old that it was hard to tell what color it once had been. He seemed hunched over, as if carrying the weight of every day he had lived. He had placed his hands on his knees, his fingers helplessly intertwined. His beard was tangled and his eyes gazed distantly, perhaps into the shadows of his past. Not just his body, but his spirit seemed exhausted. The young woman took a few steps forward, but then stopped. Her conscience pulled her back, for in front of her was not just a homeless man, but a lost soul. Taking a deep breath, she knelt beside him. When their eyes met, she felt the emptiness within his gaze. That void was etched with the traces of lived pain, lost hopes, and forgotten memories. A once bright mind shone with knowledge, now felt like a spark lost amid ashes. Its existence was perceptible but needed a breeze to reignite. Emily spoke softly. "Sir, are you okay? Can I help you?" The man slowly raised his head. Even that motion showed how much his once strong body had deteriorated. His cracked lips parted slightly, but the voice of someone who had been silent for so long struggled to emerge. In his eyes was not just the weight of years, but also of losses and disappointments. He blinked slowly, as if trying to recognize the world before him again. Finally, with a rasping voice that came through his throat, he managed to whisper, "Help? There is no help, my girl. It's all over." There was such deep despair in his voice that Emily struggled to suppress the lump in her throat. "Maybe some hot soup? Would you like to sit and talk for a bit?" she offered. The man shook his head at first, but then, with a deep sigh, he agreed. Emily quickly went to a nearby cafe, got some hot soup, and returned. The man grasped the soup with his trembling hands, managing to hold the spoon awkwardly to start eating. "This soup tastes like the one my mom used to make," he remarked. Emily watched him closely, recognizing not only his physical exhaustion, but his emotional fatigue as well. "Can I know your name?" she asked. He remained silent for a moment, then answered slowly. "Once they called me Dr. Thomas Sinclair, but now no one addresses me that way anymore." Emily's eyes widened. Dr. Thomas Sinclair. She had heard that name somewhere before, but where? The next day, when Emily returned, Dr. Sinclair was still in the same spot. She brought him coffee and some bread. Cautiously, she sat down beside him. "I must have heard you referred to before, right? Dr. Sinclair, were you a professor?" That night, when she returned home, Emily decided to look into the name that echoed in her mind. She opened her computer and typed Dr. Thomas Sinclair into a search engine. What came up was a history of a former professor at Princeton University, renowned for his work in mathematics, with numerous awards to his name. Countless articles, award-winning theses, and major projects lay before her, but the most striking piece of information was about the loss of his family. Dr. Sinclair, once a star at the university, had made groundbreaking contributions to mathematics at a young age, particularly focusing on chaos theory and differential equations. He was beloved by his students and respected by his peers, standing at the pinnacle of his career, until one day when his life turned upside down. Emily continued to read through old news articles. One caught her eye with a headline that read, "Famous professor loses wife and 2 children in tragic terrorist attack." The photographs featured Sinclair in happier times. His wife looked at him with a smile, their children holding his hands, beaming with joy. Yet a historical tragedy had wiped it all away. As she delved deeper into the details of the event, the scale of the betrayal became even more heart-wrenching. Sinclair's family had perished in an explosion at the airport on their return from a conference abroad. The insufficient security measures were cited, and the attack was claimed by a group of radicals. Sinclair had postponed being with his family that day to attend an academic meeting, deciding to take the next flight. But that flight never took off, for at that airport he had lost the meaning of his life. Afterward, Sinclair's life changed completely. Initially, he buried himself in work, but gradually he lost interest in his classes. His colleagues reported that he became increasingly withdrawn, attending no lectures and mumbling incoherent sentences to some students. Eventually, he was diagnosed with depression and briefly checked into a rehabilitation center. However, he rejected treatment and vanished from academia one day, leaving behind various rumors of his life among the homeless. Yet no one had truly found him. Emily took a deep breath. The man was not just a homeless professor. He was a once great mind who had suffered immense pain from a traumatic event, succumbing to tragedy and living as a genius lost to time. She looked at the old photographs on her computer screen. Sinclair's eyes had once sparkled with brightness and hope. Now, the man she saw before her bore little resemblance to that person. Emily took another deep breath. He was not just a homeless professor. He was a brilliant man who had faced great suffering. The next day, she would wake up even more determined to help him. Sinclair shook his head sorrowfully. "I was once a mathematics professor. Numbers created my world, but now I live in the shadow of the past," Dr. Sinclair stated. Emily listened intently. "What happened? Why are you here?" Dr. Sinclair took a deep breath. His gaze drifted away, as if his mind had traveled years back in time. "My family died in a terrorist attack. My wife, my son, and my daughter. That day my life ended. Everything inside me burned, just like they did. I should have been there. Perhaps I could have saved them, but I was not there. I left them alone while attending an academic meeting. When my children reached out to me in fear and my wife took her last breath, I was in a completely different city. Can they forgive me? Can I forgive myself?" Tears filled Emily's eyes. She was witnessing not just the disintegration of an academic career, but the shattering of a human life. Emily wanted to do something for him. She felt that Dr. Sinclair needed not only help, but also a purpose to hold on to life. Perhaps Sinclair's knowledge and experience could still be valuable. Could his intelligence and teaching skills inspire others? An idea sparked in her mind. Maybe he could teach homeless and orphaned children, creating change in both his life and theirs. With this thought, she spoke to her manager, Mark Davidson, at the Social Services Center. "I want to do more than just help him. I want to give him a sense of meaning. He's so intelligent. Maybe by touching the lives of children thirsty for knowledge, he can rediscover his lost purpose. Who knows? Maybe he'll heal through them. What do you think? Can we convince him to teach the kids in the orphanage not only math but also hope?" Mark raised his eyebrows thoughtfully. "He seems like a tough man, but if you can convince him, it could be a wonderful opportunity for those kids. They need someone who can be a role model, not just a teacher. He was a brilliant academic in the past. Maybe he can not only teach them, but also learn to feel meaningful again. If we provide him this opportunity, both the children and he might benefit. Emily beamed with excitement. A chance had arisen for Dr. Sinclair to regain his life. Mark agreed to present a one-week program. If Dr. Sinclair came to the center, accepted treatment and the job offer, they would support him. The next day, Emily approached Dr. Sinclair to offer him this opportunity. She wanted to present him with a chance to rejuvenate and connect with life again. However, she didn't get the reaction she had hoped for. Dr. Sinclair looked away due to the weight of long-standing hopelessness, a painful smile appearing on his face. Emily, I am but a shadow of the past. What could I teach those kids? What could I give them? Emily knew it would not be easy to break through his stubborn wall. Yet she sensed there was still a spark of light within Sinclair's eyes. They just needed to be brought back to the surface. In a moment of silence, Emily took a deep breath, gathered her resolve, and fixed her gaze upon Sinclair's. In her eyes was a plea for him to believe in her, as if she carried the hope to revive the man trapped in the shadows of the past. The kids were once like me, orphaned and without parents, Professor, but they have never met someone like you. They are fighting to survive, but they lack a guide. They need someone to show them the way and let them know they are not alone. You will not only teach them math, but also show them that they have a chance in life, just like I do. Someone believed in me, and that's why I'm here. If you believe in them, you might change not just their lives, but your own as well. Dr. Sinclair paused, lost in thought. Emily's encouraging gaze seemed to reignite a long-extinguished spark within him. For the first time in years, he felt needed, but he was still conflicted. Finding a way to feel valuable again felt like one of the hardest acceptances. But if I can't even help myself, how can I give them anything, Emily? Emily smiled gently. They will understand when they listen to you. Just give it a chance. Just one chance. No, Emily, there is nothing like that for people like me. I have nothing left to teach. I once was a brilliant man in numbers and theories, but now they hold no meaning for me. Perhaps I was once an exemplary individual, but that man is long gone. I don't think I can ever find myself again. Emily was unwilling to give up. Taking a deep breath, she looked into his eyes. You're mistaken, Professor. There are children, lost in these streets, orphaned, hopeless, unsure of what to do. Who better to inspire them than you? They need more than mathematics to survive, but they need someone they can look up to, someone who can give them hope. I was one of them, you know. I spent years in orphanages, but someone believed me, and now I am here. If you believe in them, you can change not just their lives, but also yours. Dr. Sinclair fell silent for a moment. Tears brimming in his eyes pulled him deep into thought, as for the first time in perhaps many years, he felt truly needed. Yet doubts lingered. Emily gently held his hand, speaking softly. First, I want you to feel good. To get your life back on track, you need to take care of yourself first. Come with me, take a warm bath, wear clean clothes, and enjoy a nice meal. You cannot look to the future without feeling good about yourself and leaving the past behind. Let's take a small step today, together. Sinclair nodded slightly, his voice shaky. I don't know, Emily. I haven't even taken care of myself for so long. I may have gotten used to living like this, but you don't have to live like this. This could be your second chance, a chance to find your light again. Sometimes life sweeps us down to the lowest point, but a hand reaching out can change everything. I grasped that hand. Now I am extending it to you. Will you accept it? The man looked away, but he couldn't escape Emily's sincere gaze. With a deep sigh, he nodded in acceptance. Emily gently took him to the social services center. There she helped him take a warm shower, change out of his worn clothes, and shave. The exhaustion of years began to wear off as he looked in the mirror. For the first time in a long while, He could recognize the man staring back at him. Doctor. Sinclair took a deep breath as he gazed into the mirror, tears filling his eyes. After a few minutes of silence, he turned to Emily. You know, Emily, if my daughter had lived, she would probably be 5 or 6 years younger than you. I would have always told her how learning empowers a person. I would tell her that knowledge provides not just material support, but also emotional strength. But isn't it ironic? After losing everything, those words meant nothing to me. But here, right now, you remind me of those truths I had forgotten. Emily could see the deep sadness in his eyes. Sinclair took a heavy breath and lowered his head. You know, Emily, when my family died, I died too. But I now understand that I should have something to present when I face them again. At least, I should be able to show that I attempted to make a difference, to say, you lost me, but I held on to life. The children in the orphanage. If I'm there for them, maybe I can somehow reach the spirit of my daughter. Perhaps this is the only way to repay my debt to her. Emily smiled softly, her eyes shining. And maybe they can change your life too, Professor. You need a journey just as much as they do. Perhaps while inspiring them, you'll rediscover the light you lost within. It's not just you. They might also strengthen through you. Starting anew always feels difficult, but sometimes the most beautiful stories arise precisely from the darkest places. You can rebuild together. Emily rushed through the cold winds of New York, clutching her coffee tightly as she hurried to work. For her, these mornings were anything but ordinary. She woke up every day with the echoes of her past. Growing up in orphanages, she had been deprived of love and constantly sought a sense of belonging. Since she could remember, she had drifted from place to place, surrounded by different people. Her life had been one long struggle, but she had never given up. Scholarships had enabled her to complete her education, and she chose to study social services because she believed that helping those in similar circumstances defined her purpose. She loved her job, yet deep inside, there remained a feeling of incompleteness. Just like every other day, she stepped off the subway and walked a few blocks to the social services building. However, that morning, something caught her eye. Chugga. The corner of the sidewalk lay an elderly man, shivering beneath a tattered blanket. A few words were scrawled on a piece of cardboard. I'm hungry. May God protect you. Emily's heart sank. She was drawn to the man's gaunt cheeks and trembling hands. His shirt was so worn that it was hard to tell what color it once was. He appeared hunched over, as if he bore the weight of every day he had lived. His hands rested on his knees, fingers intertwined hopelessly. His beard was tangled, his eyes stared vacantly into the distance, perhaps lost in the shadows of the past. His spirit appeared to be as exhausted as his body. Emily took a few steps, closer, but then hesitated. Her conscience urged her back, for in front of her was not simply a homeless man, but a lost soul. Taking a deep breath, she knelt beside him. When their eyes met, she felt the emptiness within his gaze. That void was filled with the weight of unspoken pain, lost hopes, and forgotten memories. A once brilliant mind, glowing with knowledge, now lay buried in ashes. It was present, but needed a gust of wind to spark life once more. "Sir, are you okay? Can I help you?" Emily asked gently. The man slowly raised his head, a motion that revealed how much his once mighty body had degraded. His cracked lips parted slightly, struggling to form a word after so long. In his eyes lingered a sorrow that spoke of years, of loss, heartbreaks, and despair. He blinked slowly, endeavoring to reconnect with the world surrounding him. Finally, he managed to whisper with a raspy voice, "Help? There is no help, my girl. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like the videos, and leave a comment. We'll keep growing with your support. Thank you."